Hello, students, and welcome to Rayobyte University. My name's Dean Isaac, and I'm incredibly disappointed. Despite being self-evidently the most prestigious university in the entire world, we're not even getting the top ratings in our very own state of Nebraska, if you can believe it. So, I will be sitting in on today's lecture presented by our so-called Professor of Innovation, Neil Amy, and I'm going to see what he's cooking up today. Neil, are you there?
I am here, Dean. I'm so sorry for the lack of performance I brought to you, but we have hope because today, for our class that you'll be sitting in with, I brought a very, very important guest lecturer. His name is Fabien Vauchelles. Fabien, please. Hello, Fabien. Fabien, wake up. Hey, Fabien.
Hey, Neil.
Hey, Fabien. Thanks for being here to show the dean that we mean business. We're gonna scrape Google Maps today, and you're gonna show us how. But I think the dean is gonna like what comes out of this, and once you start showing us, I think it'll start clicking for him.
Yeah, so I can show you how to get all university in Nebraska. What about it?
Yeah, please explain.
So, let me share my screen. So here, I've got all university in Nebraska. I wrote university in Nebraska, and Google Maps just put me all the university that I can find. And what we're gonna do is to automate the collection of that. But first, I think I need to introduce you to HTML, CSS stuff. Do you know this kind of stuff?
Before we go there, what will the dean of Rayobyte University use with this?
Well, I think what I'm specifically looking for is two things. I'd like to get the ratings of these universities, so if they're doing worse than us, we can laugh at them. If we're doing better than us, we can seethe about it. And while we're at it, we'd better get the phone numbers so I can contact these universities directly and give them a piece of my mind, what's left of it.
Now, if that's not innovation, I don't know what is, students. So, Fabien, you were gonna bring us and the students here to talk about HTML, CSS. So we're looking at this browser screen. I'm seeing this. I'm an innovative guy, but I don't know web scraping. So help me understand, how do we go from this and gather all that data that the dean wants to see so he can call these leads and give them a piece of his mind?
Oh, that's totally doable. So what we can do from here, I'm using Chrome. I can open the Chrome inspector here. So if I'm opening that, I will get the whole HTML of the page. And I've got a magic button here. So I can select one items and show where is it. So here I can see that we have one result on the University in Nebraska. And also I can see that every div here, every items HTML part is a university. That's okay for you?
Yeah, keep going, please.
Cool. So what we're gonna do is to get the link of this university, and we will click on the link and it will open the web page of the university.
If I may ask, I think the students may be questioning this as well. Do we have to click on that link to get the information we need?
We can do that, but we can also extract directly the URLs. And I think there is a URL somewhere here. You've got the URL, and if you click on this URL, you will get directly here.
Got it.
That's the interesting part. And just to come back here on the list, we need to select the different parts. But as you see, Google Map doesn't help us. They use random selectors here. So we need to find some selector which is always the same. And if we are looking here, so here I've got a container of all university. I've got the role which is feed, and it's not moving, it's not the random stuff. So we will use that to select all the div inside the selectors. And from each div, we can also select the URL. Is it clear?
Very clear, very clear. Maybe take one second to explain. So we have HTML in front of us, and you're talking about the CSS selectors, right? And when you
Oh yeah, you're totally right. So the CSS selectors, basically it's used for design. So on each selector you can apply some design stuff, so the color, the size of the font. But it's also used to define informations on the web page. So we can use that to target information on the web page.
got
Here-
it. And if I may ask, I see that you said that there's random names there for this CSS. And how would that be different on a different site? And why is Google giving these random CSS names?
Yes, that's a good question. Why are they doing that? It's to prevent us from collecting and doing automations, but we are smarter, I think, and we can find some stuff, some selector to bypass these protections. And
Dean?
other webs, yeah.
Dean, do you hear that? We are smarter. This is innovation right before your very eyes.
Well, smart is always relative, isn't it? I mean, I'd agree you're smarter than most worms, some forms of dirt. Yes, if we're merely aiming for smarter than, I suppose I can give you that much.
There you go, Fabien. Praise from the dean himself, saying we're smarter than worms here. Let's take it and run with it. So the CSS, Google has made these tricky to make it hard for us to scrape. What are we going to do about it? Please walk us through that.
Yeah, we won't use this kind of selectors because it's random. So what we will use is some static ones. And this one, the role feed, is always there. So we will use this information to target all the different universities.
Okay, let's see it.
So with that, after I can get each university links. And if I'm opening each link, now the goal is to target the name of the university, the rating, and also the phone number for the dean. So what we can do is also to inspect this page and select with this magic button the name and check if we can correctly target these informations. What we can do is to use this information here. So it's a tag. A tag is the name of the HTML elements, and here you see it's H1, and most of the time there is only one H1 tag in the web page because it defines the title of the web page. So we can use this information to extract the university names. But for the rating, it can be more complex. So if I'm selecting the rating here, I've got a lot of random CSS selectors, so it can be difficult to get the informations. But what I can use here is something which is always static, which is this label. And there is always something stars, and I can find the difference in the information by targeting these star expressions. And for that, I will use regular expressions.
So regular expressions, Fabien. So let's pause there for a second. Students, does everyone understand what regular
come
expressions?
on, Professor. Everybody knows regular expressions. You know, grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. It's raining cats and dogs. 6 one way, half dozen the other. Come on, we all know this stuff. Let's move on.
There you have it, the definition of regular expressions. Fabien, if you may, please continue.
Oh, I see that you already know regular expressions. So we will use that to target these informations. And for the phone numbers, there is also a trick. So if I'm selecting the phone number here, you can see that it's also difficult to target that. But perhaps I can find this information elsewhere. And if I'm looking closer here, we have a sentence here starting with phone and the phone numbers. So I can use this prefix to target the informations. So web scraping and parsing, it's a lot of tricks. So now what we're gonna do is to use a framework to collect the information, because we don't want to do that manually. So we need some framework to automate that. And what we can do is to use Scrapy, which is a Python framework. So let's start to code in Python the framework.
So Fabien, real quick. So
yes.
So our students here understand frameworks, libraries. They have their Python environment set up like you do here. Why choose Scrapy? Real brief. Why Scrapy and not some other scraping library that they could look up online?
Oh, you're right. So Scrapy is an open source framework used more than 10 years in the scraping industry. So it's in Python, it's open source, you can contribute, there is a lot of support. So anyone can use that. And also there is a lot of plugins that we can combine with Scrapy. And also I will talk about plugin because we won't use only Scrapy. We will also use Playwright. And Playwright is a framework. So let me show you Playwright. This one. Yeah.
Oh, you guys are always using these newfangled browsers. I've been accessing the internet using old CDs of America Online I got out of cereal boxes in the 90s, and it's always worked just fine for me.
Well, although I suspect Google Maps may allow your AOL browser to connect to it, Mr. Dean, I am the professor of innovation here, and Fabien, I think, has blessed us with this new technology here. Fabien, can you explain a little bit more and maybe sell the Dean on why Playwright is important for this use case?
Yes, of course. If you try to access to Google Maps with your old disk, now it must be blocked. If you are using Scrapy, it would be the same issue. You will be blocked by Google Maps because, these guys are really smart. So we need to do some advanced stuff. We need to use a real browser to connect to Google Maps. But because we want to have some automations, we need something that can be automated from Scrapy. So Scrapy will come on Playwright, and Playwright will open a browser and doing all the automations.
Got it. So if I understand you right, if we use Scrapy by itself or something like curl or just a simple request library, Google Maps will say, nope, you can't connect to us. And that's because Google Maps can detect whether or not we are using a real browser or not. And Playwright essentially is a programmatic way to have a real browser.
You're totally correct.
Perfect. Okay, so please continue, Fabien.
So what we need to do first is to install Playwright and Scrapy. So I've got a Python environment, I'm using Python 3. So let's install both libraries. So I will use pipe with Scrapy and Scrapy Playwright. And it will install very quickly Scrapy and Playwright. I need also to install Playwright and dependency. So I write this command, Playwright install with dependence, and it will ask my password. So don't check my password, please. And I've got all dependency and project ready. So now we need to create one project with Scrapy. For that, there is a command, which is Scrapy start project. And we will call this project Google Maps.
Now, why that name specifically?
It dropped out my mind, so I think it's a good name.
Well, I guess.
So, Scrapy Google Maps starts the project. Perfect. Now I need to add one spiders. So let's add one spider from Scrapy. So a spider is something responsible for all the logic in your scrapers. It will connect to the web page, parse the data, and doing the structured extractions. So now I need to create a spider. Oh, don't be scared.
Dean, are you okay?
I heard spider. Where is it? I'm ready.
Fabien, can you please explain what we're talking about here with a spider?
Yes, don't be scared. So it's a logical computer spiders. It's the name of the logic handled by Scrapy. In a spider, which is a scraper, you have all the logic to collect the data, to parse the data, and extract the structured informations. So don't be scared. So I will create one here called University on google.com. Perfect. And now I will open my project in my favorite pie charms. So it's here. And let me show you how the project is structured. So on the project, I've got some settings, I've got some items, middleware, pipelines. We won't use middlewares and pipelines. And also I've got the spiders directories. In the spiders, I've got this university spiders, and that's where we will implement the logic. So let's connect to the URL previously used. So let me copy paste some code and show you quickly how we can use that. So let me write that on the spiders. So what I can do here, I will write the content of these functions. So I've got one here. So what I'm gonna do is when I've got the response, I will find this role field that we discussed before. On this role field, I will select all the tag A, which are link, and I will follow the link.
And how so follow the link. Can you explain that and how that works there? What's the dot follow? Is that a Playwright function?
No, it's a Scrapy function.
Scrapy function. Okay, can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, for sure. So here I'm extracting the elements, and for each element, I'm just asking to Scrapy to follow this link. So I just have to specify the link, not extract the URL, and Scrapy will handle all the logic itself. So that's the cool part.
Okay, so this what we're seeing here is that Scrapy will go visit every one of those pages and get the HTML of all those pages. Is that correct? And where does it store it? Where does this HTML at this stage go to? Where does it respond to?
It will send to this function. That's why I need to write it.
Got it, okay.
So on the Parsing University function, we will select information and extract them. For that, I'm using a university item loader. So a loader is a Scrapy concept which helps to extract the data. So let me show you how it's working. So I'm going to the item files, and here I've got university items. Here I'm describing the different fields that I want to extract. So the name, the rating, the phone. So the rating is the float numbers. But I don't want to handle myself all the string stuff, removing the blank space around the string, if there is an array of items, and getting the first one extra. So I will use some processors, and I'm using the default one on the Scrapy documentations. So if I'm getting back here on the university extractors, I can use now these item loaders. I can add the name, which is the title of the web page, and also I will extract the rating and the phone, and for that I'm using XPath.
So yeah, Fabien, if you could help us explain here. I see you're using XPath and CSS. You've used them both differently. Can you show kind of a side-by-side with the Google Chrome browser on how and why you chose what you wrote here for those, so that people can understand how they could get other data points if they need to?
Yeah, for sure. So here I've got the web page. It's a little bit small, but you can understand. So I've got the H1 tag, which is this one. And what I will do is not to selecting the whole tag. I want to get only the text inside the tag. That's why I'm using that. And for that, I'm using a CSS selector. So it's a way to write the extractions. And there is different ways. There is CSS selector and there is XPath selectors. It's another way. It's a little bit more complex than CSS selectors, but it's far more powerful. And that's why with this kind of selector, I can extract the star informations and the font informations.
So if I may pause you here, just to make sure I'm understanding. So the H1::: text, that is essentially a CSS expression of sorts. And so if students want to go look up on their own, they should go online, Google, ChatGPT, and say, hey, teach me how to write my own CSS expression. I need to get the H1 class text. That's how they would start researching on their own. They want other things.
Yes, they can do that for CSS selector, but for XPath it can be more complicated because the website is dynamic. So I think the best way is to learn how to use XPath.
Yeah, please explain. I see some commonalities between these two.
Yeah, so let me show you how to get the rating here. So you will have a preview how it's working. So I'm on the items on this web page. I will extract all the item here. I've got the star here, and I will get all the tag containing the attribute ARIA labels which contain the word star. So if I'm going there, I will select everything, and in fact there is only one here using the ARIA label star and with the value star, which is here. So I will select the whole part here, so the span, class, role, etc. And I want to extract only this string. So what I will do is to add this information to just select the attribute, and it will extract only this information here.
Got it. And so again, for students to, on their own, if they want to collect other data points, they need to look up XPath selectors and how to write those to understand this. Is that what they would start researching? And then as I understand it, ARIA label is kind of our constant, because if the Google Maps is clever, they're creating all this dynamic class names and so on and so forth, but ARIA label is constant all the time, and so therefore we can get the data that we need.
Right, that's exactly that. Oh, I forgot some things. I forgot to set up Python for my project, so I won't have any red error. So here I'm selecting Python, and that's perfect. I don't have any.
And to confirm, Fabien, when you installed this project with Scrapy, it auto-generated all those files that are in here, besides this code that you've just copy and pasted.
Yes, it generates an empty project, empty spider, so I need to write the logic now.
Yeah, got it.
So we will use this part here to connect to this URL. So that was the previous URL that I show you in the Chrome browsers. So going to search University in Nebraska, United States. I'm also adding very important stuff for Google Maps, which is set the language in English, because remember, we will use selectors like stars or phone to get the information. So if it's none other language like French, it won't work. So what now I can do, I'm doing this request, I'm doing a callback, I will create a functions which is Parsing University, and this function is responsible for handling the response. So when Scrapy has a response, it will call these functions. Also, there is something I want to show you. When I'm connecting for the first time to Google, here, Google Maps.
And you did this in a private browser, why?
Because it's the first times.
Mm-hmm. So your software, your spider will, on its first attempt, will appear like this. This is the behavior your spider will essentially experience.
Correct. Yes.
Got it.
And on the first times, because there is no cookie, nothing inside,
Yeah.
Google will ask us some consent.
Yeah.
So I need to click on one of the buttons. And that's what I'm doing here. That's the beauty of Playwright. You can script some stuff before sending back the response, the HTML response to Scrapy. So what I'm doing here, I'm waiting for any forms, and I will click on the first buttons. And after that, I will be redirected to these URLs, and I will get all the response. And what I can do also is to show you what the response is. So let me just explain what is the meta part here. That's the important part. Without this one, this meta information, Scrapy doesn't know that we will use Playwright. So we must set to Scrapy, to the spider, that for this request, we will use Playwright and we will use some kind of automations. Also, I need to update some settings here. So here is the setting of Scrapy, and I will modify that. So let me find the right information here. Perfect. So the very important part on the setting is to set the download handler. The download handler is used to connect to the website and gather the content. So instead of using the Scrapy default one, we will use one from Playwright. So Scrapy will order to Playwright to connect to the URL and get the response. And also I'm using some option from Playwright here. I'm asking to show the browser because of course in a production environments we don't need to show the browser, it will run without a display. So for productions you need to set up Headless true, but here for the demo I will use false.
And can you explain this distinction between headless, true and false?
Yeah, I will show you.
Okay, yeah, please, let's see it.
Yes, I'm very excited by the idea of bloody decapitations being involved in this in some way.
Yeah, you know, we are French and we are doing that too. So I'm writing Scrapy crawl and the name of the spider, which is University here. And Scrapy will run Playwright. Playwright will open a browser here. So as you see, I've got the consent. I quickly click on the buttons and I just close the web page. But before that, I'm printing the whole HTML here. And of course, you can understand that it's not obvious to extract information directly on HTML. So we need what we saw previously as a CSS selector.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying the CSS selectors that we talked about before should, in theory, be in this code, this HTML we see in front of us.
Yes, that's the same HTML that we see here.
Yeah.
So now what I will do is to run again the spider. So I will write Scrapy called University, and Scrapy will use Playwright to open the browsers. So you will see that Chrome opening the consent, accepting that, getting the university, and
amazing. So it's opening up a bunch of browsers here. Dean, what do you think about this approach?
I think it's quite interesting, especially the way it opens and closes each tab. Personally, I just like to open 600 tabs and listen to the funny noises my computer makes.
Indeed. However, this will probably be on a server of some kind, of course, in Rayo's basement server farm. But no worries about your personal computer. We'll make sure it stays cool.
You should be worried about my personal computer.
Fabien, if you may continue, please.
You're welcome. So as you see, we extract the different information here, but that's not perfect. For the rating, we wait float numbers, and for the phone, we don't need the phone prefix. So what we're gonna do is to add some processing functions to remove all these parts. And it all happens in the item files. So here we will specify specific processor for rating and phone. So I've got some functions here which are really interesting to do. So if here I'm writing this parser, I need to import a regular expression library. And I will use regular expression to extract the rating here. And on the parse phone, I will just get the second part. So I will remove the phone informations. And I will use this processor here. So I can add that on rating in, I will use a map compose. And I will use pairs rating. I can do the same for the phone number. And I can use that for parse phone. So if now I'm running again the spider here, so it will do the job again, getting all the informations, the different web pages. And now if I'm looking to the different extracted elements, I've got the information correctly extracted. So rating is a number and the phone is perfect.
Awesome, amazing, Fabien. So that I see just one item there. Are all the items in your console?
I assume we can perhaps extract that into a CSV file.
Let's do that. Let's make it into a format that Dean can use more readily than the console, of course.
Yes, otherwise he will use his whole disk.
Right.
So I can use a simple command and add an output option. So let's do that on universities CSV. And I will run again all this information and write in a structured files so the Dean can use that.
We can obviously cut this out.
Yeah, or accelerate.
Yeah, right.
So I'm using the computer farms of the Dean.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and now I've got this file, university here. And as you see, I've abstract information in a structured ways.
Amazing, Fabien. This is innovation before our very eyes. Dean, what do you think about this information? Does this meet your definition of innovation?
I'm a little skeptical here, to be honest. Let's see if this information actually works. Let's try calling one of these numbers. Hello, a Nebraskan University. Yes, is your refrigerator running? Well, then you'd better go out and catch it! That's why you have a 4.3 rating. Take that!
How does that feel, Dean?
I feel invigorated.
Wow, Fabien, you've blessed me with this likely promotion from the Dean. Feeling invigorated by
I
the
didn't say
innovation
promotion.
department.
That's a different word than what I said.
Oh.
You've kept your job for another semester, Amy.
Oh,
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Thanks goodness. So Fabien, here we have the final CSV outputted there, and we got all the listings in Nebraska. I think we've done a fine job today, and we can wrap up. Any parting thoughts or ideas? Gene, any thoughts or ideas?
Well, I think today we've learned how to scrape Google Maps. I think we've learned that Fabien needs to re-examine his sleep schedule, and we've learned that despite your lack of adherence to the dress code, you can bring innovation to Rayobyte University.
Thank you, Gene. Until next time.